marionettes are the most complicated, other than the new electronic, of the puppet four versions to build. The string puppets, which go back, by the way, to ancient Egypt, 4,000 years ago. The Greeks and Romans thought this was fabulous, and the Romans would make theirs out of human bone and ivory from hippopotamus.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Science Witch podcast. Today, we have a truly magical and amazing guest that I got to meet in part thanks to Atlas Obscura. So shout out to Atlas Obscura. They have a list of all of the wondrous magical places. And of course, living so close to Portland, I was looking through the list and I found that there was a puppet museum. And I went to go check it out on a Thursday in March, and it was such a magical experience. And one of the things I love about this podcast is it helps me to meet folks that are just super passionate about something. And so today I feel very honored to have Steve from the Portland Puppet Museum. So Steve, I wanted you to start out by first introducing yourself to our listeners and how you became the curator of this amazing and wondrous museum.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Yes, I am Steve with the Portland Puppet Museum and the Old World Puppet Theater, which is my professional company that I've had since I was 17. The Portland Puppet Museum was sort of an offshoot. Let's have a beer on the sidewalk across the street and figure out what we're going to do. I had just shot a 4-year, $250,000 pilot film for Warner Brothers to take my 17 marionette shows and turn them into actual movies and books for kids, 3rd grade reading level. My career with Old World Puppet Theater has spanned over 45 years. And traditionally we do marionette shows for elementary school kids. So I was looking across the street at my workshop and said, well, what if we just open a little pint-sized puppet museum? And part of the movie proposal was to open a museum and a film studio and a small performing arts center here in Selwood. And so when I was talking to the Portland City Commissioners, the zoning commissioners, they said, well, you can do something small in the building that you have your workshop in because it's historical. The building was built in 1870. And if you wanted to run a little puppet museum there, that would be fine. So we thought, well, let's see if Portland will support a little puppet museum. At that point, I had about 700 puppets in my personal collection, because in my offices in California and here in Portland and out at Mall 205, when I had my theater out there, I had exhibits of puppets that I had collected from around the world. So we thought, well, let's open Ping Pong's pint-sized puppet museum and see how the media does it, because I'm in for a 2-year wait. So it would give me something to do that was artistic, creative, and valuable to the community. There are only 9 puppet museums in the United States. It is a very rare thing for anybody to dedicate an entire museum to an art form.
Yeah.
We have puppets in museums all over the world,
right?
But there are very few puppet museums that are dedicated to this incredible old ancient art form.
Yeah.
And so the Portland Puppet Museum came about. The zoning commissioner said, it's fine, you can do this. Now we got to get the safety and health people in here. We have to get everybody else to make sure how you set it up is going to be conductive for 4 days a week for the public safety to come in. And these are the zoning ordinances and the city ordinances that you need to do. It's a lot more complicated than people think. It's not like, oh, I have a barn, let's open a building to the public.
Right.
We changed a lot. We had to have handrails. We had to have all sorts of warnings. I had to have fire exit things put up. And so it was an interesting challenge.
Yeah, but you were so passionate about these puppets that you have in your possession. I thought we could maybe even back up further and talk about why puppets? Like, what is it that brought you to this craft, this performance, and also art form?
Okay, same as you, and it's going to sound very familiar. My mother. So
Uh-huh.
on the music, da 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 da, and she decided that she had 3 kids. We were living in Germany at that point. My dad was in the military, so I moved all over the world. And she's, what am I going to do with this 7, 9-year-old and a 10-year-old? And so I'll buy these little British marionettes and we'll start performing with them. And I didn't like the scenery. So my mom said, fine, paint your own. I didn't like the stories. I said, Mom, these stories are horrible. She goes, well, then let's write our own stories. So my father built us the first puppet stages, and then we got a beautiful one in Germany made with velvet drapes and wood carved proscenium and stuff. And the puppets are about 6 or 7 inches tall. And I'll show you one of those later during the podcast. 1967, Steve gets roped into The Sound of Music. We became the Von Trapp kids doing
Uh-huh.
the show. So it was fun and I loved doing it. It was very creative. And the puppets are about the size of Barbie. So my sister got new Barbie doll furniture. She got new Barbie doll costumes when we started making the puppets. And that's what began a 45-year career for real.
Wow. That's amazing.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
having a mom that is a theater teacher, shout out to my mom.
I'm a social worker and an artist.
Yeah.
So everything we did, she said, has to have meaning. You can't just do it to do it. There has to be a moral behind your story. You have to, and she was really good at helping us with developing the stories that we first were writing. So my mother was incredibly cool with that. My dad was just this happy-go-lucky big guy, just going, okay, whatever, they're puppets, but the whole family joined in at first, and it was really, really
nice.
I
So
started
then
the
what
career.
continued that trajectory to being a professional puppeteer and performance artist?
I put the puppets away when we moved back to the United States. When I went to about junior high. So I was in my teens, that 12, 13, and I put them away. I started taking art courses. I wanted to be a fine artist. So I took painting, watercolor, weaving, pottery, jewelry making, textiles, printmaking. I had every possibly known art class that you could take in Oregon and Washington State when I was living in Washington. And my senior year, my family got hard on money and I wanted to go to the senior prom. And my teachers, my art teachers, my English lit teachers, my creative writing teachers said, didn't you used to do puppets? And I said, oh, that's for kids. I'm like, that's for little kids. And they said, no, it's an ancient art form. And if you build a show, we'll all hire you to do little birthday party shows and you can raise money. And I did, and they did. So my dad got out the old Wallenstock reel-to-reel tape recorder and a bunch of records, and we wrote the first, I wrote my first real show called The Birthday Present, which is now called The Enchanted Ring. And we did it and performed it all over. Then I moved down to Portland when I graduated from high school. And I interviewed with the Beaverton Mall out in Beaverton here, and they said, we don't have any marionette theaters in Oregon like this. So we want to set you up temporarily in a vacant store. So I did that. And so when I was 18, I had my own theater in a shopping center.
Oh, wow.
Marionettes. And my dad had built me a beautiful castle stage with a drawbridge that went down. And it wasn't very large. The marionettes are still only about this big. And it was a lot of fun. We wrote about.
You still have that castle, right?
No. Oh gosh. That's ancient history. That castle I don't have, but it was fun and it was very heavy. And it was very neat. So then I joined the Ladybug Theater at the Portland Zoo, and I started taking acting classes, and then they wanted me to teach. So I went to Reed College and took their child psychology classes. And in turn, they had me teach improvisational acting for a year to elementary to junior high kids. So it was sort of a trade-off. And I really loved it and was doing the small marionettes. And then they wanted me to branch into hand puppets. And so, because their puppeteer was leaving. So I said, well, all right. So I went and bought a couple store-bought hand puppets. And then it really took off with making fuzzy, furry, not Muppet style, but similar, with your hand inside and rods that worked it. And so those became very beloved of the Ladybug Theater. When I left Portland, I met my partner and we got together, and I moved to Hawaii in 1980, I believe. I put all my puppets in my mom and dad's garage. They had gotten bigger though. When I was working for the Ladybug Theater, they said, it's not 30 people watching your show, it's 300. Something this big is not going to work. Can you go get me the little Hansel puppet that's over there? I'll show you the size and then go, okay, the behemoths that I use now are 3 feet to 18 feet tall, depending on the size of the audience and things. So I'd seen a workshop by a Japanese company who were doing bunraku theater, which is the traditional theater of Japan. And traditionally they're hand carved wood, they take hundreds of hours to do, but the children's version was styrofoam heads with felt stretched over them and sort of like Raggedy Ann kind of bodies. And then you were wearing black and working them as rod puppets. This is Hansel. This is a little Pelham puppet. So this is vintage 1968. I hate saying vintage. This is one of my toys. So here it is. Yep. Hello, how are you?
I love it.
So puppets got bigger. And then I started wearing dark clothes like the Japanese do in the bunraku theater. And that's supposed to represent the shadows. Well, in order to cut corners, I just made long robes and put black hoods on us. We looked like Darth Vader. Hi, I am your puppeteer. And so it was absolutely crazy. The kids were a little bit freaked, and to say the least, because we have these 3 or 4 foot puppets going into the audience, not just staying where the puppet show is, but actually going and sitting on their laps. And I've got a dragon or a witch flying over their head. Cut the long gowns down so we didn't look like Ninja or the Grim Reaper doing a puppet show. And then we just became very stylized Black performers. And that took off. And I'm actually across the United States for that technique.
Oh, wow. I appreciate how like occult that must have looked. Like that is something as a kid, I suspect, because I'm a child, I'm a millennial. So I was a child born in the 80s. If I had seen something like that, I would have remembered it the rest of my life. I promise you. Because it just like, that's so neat. And it has like almost this ritual of like the puppets are sort of the magical fey creatures that are conjured into the circle with the hooded figures as the the magicians and magi. That's really cool. So then Enku, I think, did you want to jump in? And
well, I actually had a question that popped into my head when you were introducing us to that last marionette.
Yes.
Does that marionette have like a persistent character or personality? Like anytime you're working with that marionette, it's the same sort of persona, or and then I was thinking that sort of for puppetry in general, how consistent is it?
I can answer that question. Marionettes are the most complicated, other than the new electronic, of the puppet 4 versions to build. The string puppets, which go back, by the way, to ancient Egypt, 4,000 years ago. The Greeks and Romans thought this was fabulous, and the Romans would make theirs out of human bone and ivory from hippopotamus. I don't know whether it was an honor to have that be turned into. Hansel, this is Hansel from Hansel and Gretel. was actually designed from 1964 stop animation film shot in Chicago. The Pelham Toy Company got the copyrights to make him. Now, I used him as any prince, okay, or any peasant boy. So yes,
Okay.
we could do them.
Does he have a little crown for his prince role?
I had little clothes for them
Oh my
and
gosh.
little capes and things like that. Little boots that they could slip the wood shoes into. So yeah, we would change the characters up a bit.
Nice.
Because we had 90 when we left Germany. Now, if you think of a toy at that time costing $5, we're talking about the 60s, okay? That's a lot of money. That's like $45 now or 50. But these little puppets were $20 a piece, so they're like
Oh.
$150 a piece. When my parents put the money out for 90, that's a lot of investment.
Mhm.
Right.
We really did think we would excel at this. And I did. So it was a great investment on my mom's part. We have a miniature theater here, which is coming into play next month, called the Tendrak Theater. And there are 90 marionettes from the Czech Republic with Tendrak is a storytelling purple dragon. And they are 4 Czech fairy tales. Some of the times, if I don't have a character and I just can't jump on a plane to Prague and buy one, I have to make one. And there are several other characters that play double roles, yes. Because
I like that Prague came up when I was only in Prague one time, and I went to this church where they had the infant baby Jesus of Prague,
Yes.
and that had actually just popped in my head when you talk about changing its clothes, because they change that little doll's clothes like almost every day or every season. I don't know. I'd have to be fact checked on that, but they have like a whole wardrobe of little robes and things for little baby Jesus.
Yep. And we do with the Tendrak Theater as well. We have little
Nice.
capes and crowns and furniture, and it's like this whole miniature world
Yeah.
for the fairy tales. And the last one, which I'll do in October, we recreated the most famous church in the city of Prague, the Church of Our Lady, which has what's called the Devil Spires that go up. And you're on the church steps with a clock tower and another. And it took us about 3 months to build this set. And we're performing in the Czech style above, performing downward. So it's like the hands of God.
Oh, nice.
Puppets. Very traditional, but very non-American. But still Czech. Excuse me. The other theater, we're hidden inside it. So 3 of us are in Tendrak's castle. You know, it's a castle theme. Here we go again. But it's really fun with all the sets and props. We have to do the shows inside because of the height of the puppets and the weight. We tried them outside in our outdoor theater one summer, and the wind just blew the little puppets right off stage. Plus, the stage is 9 feet tall and 9 feet wide. That just made a sail when the wind kicks in. And you can guide rope everything down, yes, but it's really hard to weight it down on a brick stage out in my backyard.
Right.
So we just use the indoor. We can control the lighting, fog effects, all of that. I have more control. The bigger puppets, we don't have that problem with the wind and stuff, but the smaller ones, yeah, we do.
So I think what you're saying is that the personality and sort of like almost like spirit of the puppet is something that is not so much like a 1-for-1, like this puppet has this sort of energy. It's more of like what the puppet's used for. But do you have puppets that have kind of like its own sort of sacred?
Oh yeah, there's the thing about, we're gonna stay with the marionettes for a moment.
Yeah.
It's different. In the world of Burma and India and China, the puppets are hand carved out of wood, and we're going to show those. They're beautiful, but the puppeteer will cut their finger, bleed on it, and spit on it. They are imparting their essence into the puppet. And so when you get these beautiful wood carved, incredible characters, they have a reputation to maintain. They are the storyteller, and they are locked in characters. So have a queen, that's gonna be a queen. If you have a monkey king, it's gonna be a monkey king. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and shift it over?
Yeah,
to-
let's see some of those, because these were puppets I got to see when I was um touring the museum for the first time, and you're telling me about them really is very intriguing, because these are puppets. Some of them are hundreds of years old, I think you said.
Are. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in a commercial. Okay.
Come
You
on.
have some text
No,
messages.
Hold on.
I sent you some pictures of what we're talking about.
Okay.
The display behind
Nice.
is rod puppets, which are the third oldest in the world, and a shadow puppets right behind me, which are
Oh,
leather.
nice.
And so, but I brought a special friend out here. This is Wisnu. This is the god of chaos.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Down at you. He's calm, he's calm.
He's chill.
Ah! Oh, there he is, the terrifying demon. So this is a special effect rod puppet
Can we
from
do that
Indonesia.
again so I can
Yes.
shine the light?
There you go.
Yes.
All right, here he is. He's down. He's
Light's
calm.
not
He's
good.
doing his thing.
Oh,
That's
wow.
lovely.
I don't have the right lighting set up.
They can see it. They can see
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. yeah.
Just so audio
Oh,
listeners may not
yeah.
see, this is going to have a component on our YouTube channel. So good reason to come check out our YouTube channel so you can see this amazing puppet that is, can you tell us about it a little bit? Just kind of describe it and the energy behind it, as well as a sacred object.
First of the Indonesian rod puppets that I bought back in 1979, before I left Portland. I bought this at John's Landing at a store called the Eye of Ra, which had international things from all over the world. And it was quite expensive for me at that point, but I fell in love with it. I thought it was a girl puppet for one, and I thought, what a fancy headdress with this sort of demon coming out the back. And it's not, it's the god of chaos. And I've done a lot of research. I have the collection has grown quite a bit over the years. Some people have donated them. Some people I've bought the puppets from. Some people have left me them in their will. So the Indonesian puppets tell basically the story of Sita from the Ramayana. And she is the Earth Mother's daughter who is incarnated to Earth, marries Prince Rama to see if mankind is worth saving. This is an ancient epic written in Sanskrit from India. However, it's spread all the way through the Eastern world and is more like Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
He's kidnapped by Hanuman, the Monkey King, and he tries to ravish her in a jungle. Not me, I didn't do it. She feeds him orchids and escapes using her own wit. Then she's kidnapped by two brothers who are having a war. She has to solve world peace now. This girl's having a day. And at the end, when she does that and escapes, the demons kidnap her. It all comes to the very end where she has to walk across a lake of fire because people think she's having these seduction affairs with everyone on the planet. And she is, of course, innocent. The planet opens up. Her mother takes her back. She says, mankind is not worth saving yet. On his death, he begs his wife's forgiveness. She becomes a goddess of wisdom, motherhood, and marriage. So he does get to be redeemed at the end. And he's heroic and understands how much he really did wrong to Sinta. So she's really cool. Okay, now we're going to take the commercial and go that way. And we'll
Okay.
go back to the marionettes.
Yes. And just to kind of finish up the thought about it. So each of these puppets would be a sacred performer. And so they were almost treated like, spirits in their own right in these cultures as well, right?
They're very revered and renowned. These are works of art. And in different parts of the world, they believe that the puppet embodies a spirit. Okay, not a haunted spirit, but there is a spirit there. Because I did check into that to see if, for instance, in Myanmar, if there were gnats or these special gods of different things that they celebrate. And they said, no, there are not. But the puppets do have a spirit and a soul.
Mm.
That was one of the things that was amazing. This is one of the amazing little puppets. I don't know if you can see his hand move.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh, wow. That articulation.
articulation of these is amazing. They have moving eyes
Yes.
and mouths, and they do specific movements that are very important to the Indonesian culture
Mhm.
and parts of Burma. Now, Burma is right next to Laos and it's right next to Thailand. So you have a mash over of the artist skills, you have a mash over of the legends and the religious beliefs. Those are not, the borders don't mean anything to people.
Mhm.
They mean to government and tax collectors, but they don't mean anything to artists. So the art will shift back and forth to these different countries. So
Yeah.
a puppet in Burma may look just like a puppet in Thailand, which will look just like a puppet in Laos. They do local legends. And one of the things I love about the Burmese puppets is there's an old man whose pants rise and an old woman whose boobs go up and down. And when the shows get too intense, whoa, battle, these two will just come in and start shoving out dirt on the village. We know your son was here. We know your daughter was out last night. Did you hear about this? And then they'll just walk right off. So they're really beloved and everybody looks for them during one of their shows. And the puppeteers love baiting the audience because you never know when they're going to come in and break the whole momentum of this epic scene with the old grandma and grandpa.
Comedic interludes.
Just, put it
For
right.
those in our audience who are only listening, the pants rise is not necessarily just rising up. I was picturing sort of like a
Oh, no.
high waistline,
They are
but
anatomically correct.
there we go. Okay.
So when grandpa does get wood, he gets wood. And so it's hilarious. And I have one here, which is really fun. I have to be careful. If little kids are in the museum, I can't show it off.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that would need an explicit rating.
Right.
And
So we're
21st
gonna
century.
This is probably a safe for work kind of video. So if you
Ah.
want to see the anatomical thing, you'd have to come to the Portland Puppet Museum and ask Steve for consent. Steve and the grandpa.
And the grandpa, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh,
Well, we're a podcast, so
Your body positive.
sorry. No, so continue about the marionette. I wanted you to continue what you were going to say about the marionette specifically in the
marionettes, to me that's the kind of puppet I fell in love with the most.
Yeah.
Was the animated string, articulated string characters. And they could run, they could fly, they could jump, they could lay down, depending on how they're strung. There's every way known to man to string these puppets. There is no one generic way.
yeah.
As he comes in. So this is the celestial horse
Oh yeah.
that is from Thailand. Thailand love gold beads.
Oh, that's amazing.
All of their puppets are so little wood, all of it's jointed. And he is the messenger of heaven to the earth. Is that sweet?
That is really incredible. There's so many articulations. There's like in every single joint of this puppet, and it's a glorious, very dressed as sort of like celestial armor, like white horse, and it is just incredible. And these puppets require almost a dance form to be able to like fully articulate and perform in. When I visited, you got out one of the beautiful Egyptian puppets that was a belly dancer. And if I haven't mentioned maybe on the show before, but I actually am a belly dancer. I've been practicing belly dance for 20 years now, and I've done many different forms. And nowadays I really just like to dance, and I don't have any sort of like professional aspirations with it. But I love belly dance. I love the history. I love the aesthetic. I love the movements. And one of the puppets that you have two of these, and maybe we can oh yes, there she is. So
Oh,
this is such an incredible puppet. I'm going to try to describe it for our listeners. So she has a gorgeous headdress, and she is sort of more in the Arabic style, and she has a coin belt and coin bra, and there's articulation, even it's sort of like a ball joint for her hips, which is really interesting.
So it allows
And
me to move side to side and front to back.
right, yes, and she shimmies and has pretty much every single articulated movement that I would use as a dancer, as a human dancer. And it's just such a, like, it's a puppet that you can feel I like the term, the historicity of it. That's something that
yeah.
PKD talks about, but it just has, like, as an object, a spirit that's very tangible. And that puppet is like such a incredible work of art. And then to incorporate also the dance form that you need to really perform with it.
I had to
I
study
think
belly
it's
dance when these puppets were developed, and I was doing costuming, and I was going to use them in San Francisco when I was down there. We originally developed them for the story of Esther from the Jewish Megillah, or the Bible, the story of Esther. And when Esther becomes Queen of Persia, and she's with Ahasuerus the king, she presents this banquet that is a crucial part of the story. And so she tells the king she's got a little dish for him. And so I had the dancers come out riding on camels. And then they did a very tribal, not sleazy, but very beautiful, elaborate dance. And that's how the little dancers started. Now I've used them in nightclubs, and I do them to walk like the Egyptian. I do have Egyptian music that I do dance them to too. But the Egyptian music is on a 12 beat, and walk like an Egyptian is on a 4 beat. So we use that for American people to dance them to. It's one of the things I will miss when this exhibit goes away, because they will get packed away. The camels are really fun too. They have their own personality, their own persona. The thing about puppets also is, think of them as batteries. You're holding on to an ever-ready battery, and you're charging it with your emotions, your love, your passion, your fear, all of that energy, because we have these electrical fields around us, gets stored in that puppet. So some people can actually feel a shock when they actually.
Sorry. I couldn't read
Okay.
Some people actually feel a huge shock when they touch them. And I said, it's okay for you to feel something like that. Yeah, well, we're at a puppet museum here.
I'm not a puppeteer, so
Not yet.
not yet.
We're
He's gonna teach me.
Enku, what were you going to ask?
Go ahead, fire away.
it fell out of my head. I apologize. I did have a question. I'll see if it
Flying, hanging,
recycles.
okay. The art form, the second oldest, is shadow puppets. And those started in ancient China and in India. Now they're flat. And the legend, I'm going to give you the two legends because they're fascinating. In China, the emperor had died. The empress had died. The emperor went into a tailspin and wouldn't eat. He wouldn't sleep. He wouldn't guide the country. All of the courtiers around the emperor didn't know what to do. And they saw her children mourning their mom, wearing her crown and running through the palace where the drapes are going back and forth, these beautiful silk drapes. With the sunlight outside, it looked like a miniature her because of the costuming. So they got together and they decided they would recreate her and bring her to life from heaven to tell him he needs to wake up. He needs to eat. He needs to guide the country. and take care of her children, not only, and all the people of China. So they built one out of 80 pieces of hand-done leather, fire behind these beautiful silk drapes, incense burning. Her ladies were singing his favorite songs. His wife appears against this screen, and he suddenly is shocked to see the ghost of his wife right in his palace. So he goes to hug her, and of course the silk catches on fire. He's realizing he's holding a flat thing. The whole thing bursts up into flames. He beheads the people in one of the stories, and it becomes the birth of shadow puppetry, but it was also a career-ending move for those. You also could do the romantic legend. I've seen it done both ways, where he is shocked out of it and hugs all the children at the end and says, I will lead China. And so you have the really romantic, or you have the really tragic, depending on which of the legends. So I'm going to show you a puppet of her.
Yeah.
There is, you only see white because she's actually, I have to shine a light through it. But this is
Oh, wow.
1/7 of a layer of water buffalo hide.
Oh, wow.
So this is
Wow.
paper thin.
Very paper thin.
And
It's like onion skin thin,
yes, I
actually.
think it looks like a fruit roll up, actually,
It
but
does. It does.
looks
A
like
very elaborate one.
this is how it's worked with the little rods, and there would be light behind it,
Hmm.
and it would show, and she would be able to move and spin and turn. And if she turns sideways, she'll disappear because she's thin. But this
Right.
is 1/7 of a layer of water buffalo hide.
And I think it's also important to contextualize the sort of perspective that these puppets were sort of the height. They were the height of technology for performance art at this time period.
That was actually,
So,
yeah, basically what I
Mhm.
was going to say earlier, was that seeing these puppets in this type of demonstration really does help to put, at least for me, in the mindset of like what this must have been like before video technology
Television,
or any
movie.
of the spectacle moving pictures that we have now.
And some of the puppets, like the ones behind me, these beautiful Burmese puppets, these were for royalty only at first. A lot of that in Roman times, it was for the senators and things like that. So this is the highest of the wealthiest. This is the Kardashians watching puppet shows.
Mhm.
It became less and less and more common as the time went by. The artistic level of these puppets that go back thousands of years was way off the charts.
Mhm.
Have the skill set to take a piece of leather, peel it 7 times, tan it, what means to treat the leather, then draw on it, cut it out with obsidian glass razor blades where nothing is hurt or damaged or messed up, and then perform with it is amazing. In Indonesia, they used to have competitions. You had to build 220 of these puppets. If you won the competition, you feed your entire village for a year.
Oh, wow.
So in Indonesia, they have walls in their buildings of all of these 22 winners under glass. And so they are quite amazing works of art.
That
One
is
could go
incredible.
broke with one of these puppets, you're disqualified. That's it. So they're heritage for us. They're time
Mhm.
capsules for us. The Indonesian ones, when the Muslims came in, when the Hindus were performing, the Muslims have laws about human beings being portrayed. And they
Right.
said, you may do the rod puppets and the shadow puppets if you don't change the design. So when you view a rod puppet or a shadow puppet that's in a Muslim country, or some of them are from in my museum, you're looking at 1,000-year-old time capsule.
Whoa.
That design has not been artistically changed in 1,000 years. And it's just recently in like the last 30 that they can add new features or change the design. You're asking if a puppet is always a puppet, In the Muslim world, yes, they are. May not change them. You may not use them for another character. And it's great when you have government sponsorship and very wealthy sponsorship, which I don't. And so,
Yes.
move and change everything.
Right. And that I feel like this brings us sort of to the contemporaneous situation now with puppets as sort of like, it's kind of quirky. One of my favorite new sort of puppet performances is this show called The Barbarian and the Troll. I was wondering if you had heard of it.
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's a puppet show. It's kind of the Muppet puppet style, but it's D&D based, which me and my spouse and now Enku, we all play
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons, and
Right.
it's one of our favorite things to say. You mean it's just improv, math, and reading comprehension? But so The Barbarian the Troll is about this troll who wants to be a bard, and he burns his own bridge to travel with a barbarian, and they have the best songs. One of the songs is like, you gotta have songs or it didn't happen. And I will put a link for our listeners to check this out, but it is like
Good.
hilarious, and it's funny and witty. And I know that the Fraggles recently just put out some new material on Netflix, not Netflix, Disney Plus. So I feel like there is sort of this resurgence in part thanks to,
Yeah, it comes in waves.
yeah,
20-year increments where there's so much puppetry around you right now, you are unaware of it.
yeah,
It's on stage, it's on television, it's in your own cities. And we do adult puppet shows, they're called slams, where people go and watch adult theater. The interesting thing about puppet theater versus a puppet show.
yeah,
Puppet show is little 5-minute vignettes that we're going to punch something, drop over, burp, fart, do something that little kids are going to like, that is a hit and run. If you're doing puppet theater, we're talking about lights and special
right,
effects and a story, and like I had minor soundtracked in a recording studio. I spent $5,000 each recording that I was doing to pay music rights and actors. So it's a lot different. Children's puppet theater only became prominent less than 200 years ago. It wasn't done for children at all. It was done
right,
for families and adults. And you take this extraordinary art, all the chemistry we need to know how to make rubberized heads, or how to take sawdust and put different alcoholic glues in it and make the different puppets on the different things that we do. There's a huge science behind it. When you're doing marionettes, those are all counter movement, counter jointed, and counter weighted. That is not just by fluke. You have to work and work and work like the belly dancers to get all of the mechanisms moving in the correct way.
right.
So people are like, is it hard to build puppets? It's not hard. It's not hard to play the piano. Just push down the keys. But we do, some of us push them down better, or we study music or the history of music. It's the same thing with puppetry. Whether you're doing a hand puppet, which is the newest, or a rod puppet, or a string puppet, or a shadow puppet, or an electronic puppet, we all have to know where they came from and where we're going with them.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What do you call mixed method puppetry? Like when you have the rods and the strings together?
Multimedia.
Okay.
Multimedia is, she's talking about like the Adventures of Perseus, which we're going to show you next, were marionettes because Medusa has to fly. Perseus has the wings, sandals, and has to fly in an epic battle. If you go back to the original Greek legend, I'm not talking Hollywood, I'm talking the Greek legend. When Perseus was put together, it was a show for tears of joy. It toured 3 years across the United States to 60,000 children.
Oh, wow.
We were hired to build the puppets. It took us 6 months to build what you're going to see. Even with 20 volunteers, it took us 6 months, and 7 of us were the sculptors, the plaster mold makers, the costumers, the engineers.
Wow.
It was a humongous epic.
Yeah.
One of the puppets is the 3 Gray Eye sisters, where Perseus has to find out from these old witches where Medusa lives and who Medusa is. He's a 17, he doesn't know who she is, but he knows he needs her head to save his mom in the original legend. So the Grey Eye Sisters, if you have a puppeteer, how are you going to puppeteer 3 puppets? How many arms do you have? And they were a rod tabletop. So the center one is a helmet worn on the puppeteer's head. And the other 2 are worked with the puppeteer's arms. So as we're moving our head and the arms, we can animate all 3 of these old witches.
Oh, wow.
And they have to have a tooth that shoots between the 3 of them. So when this hand goes up, gravity works, the tooth slides down on a cording to the middle one, then you pull it down further and it slides to that, lift it up, they'll argue and it'll go back and forth. So the tooth and the eye couldn't do that because Perseus steals it and holds it over a fire. So we're going to turn and I'm going to show you some of the Perseus puppets.
Yeah. The Medusa one is specifically is so magnificent. You know, and so
with halogen lights inside and gels and stuff. And
can I get you to come a little closer to the mic? So I want to make sure we can hear you.
I want you to come closer this way.
That's me.
Yeah, come on closer.
There we go.
That's good. And then I'm going to give you a close-up of, and then I'm going to give you a close-up also of the Grey Eye Sisters. But we're doing Medusa right now. So the thing I loved about Medusa was in the original story, she flies. So she has to have wings.
Oh, wow.
And she has to be able to actually fly and attack Perseus. Now we can't go shooting, chopping her head off with a full puppet like this. So we have a fake bag. It's not a fake bag, but a bag with snakes coming out of it that Perseus uses. She's about 25 pounds. This girl is heavy.
Mhm.
Yeah. So to describe it for the audio half of this project that this will become once we put it out, it's a wooden puppet. It's about 2.5 feet tall of Medusa. And listeners, of course, some might be familiar with the mythology around Medusa, but this is the story of Perseus going to find Medusa to chop off her head to save Perseus's mother is the myth, I believe.
Yes, his mother is Danae. She was impregnated by Zeus and thrown out of the palace when she had the baby, because her father did not believe about the god Zeus coming down this way. Now, Heidi. Oh, okay, you're going to do Danae. So Athena takes pity, and her coffin, which has the baby in her in it in the ocean, is settled onto Polydictus's kingdom. And he turns her into a palace slave. And so Perseus is actually raised in the palace as a royal brat, very spoiled, but his mother's still mopping the floor and cleaning the king's feet, this kind of thing, in abject humility. So when the king says, find me the head of Medusa and I'll free your mother, that puts the quest into play. And so we had to dance around some of the sexual endos.
Yeah.
Because we're doing this for elementary and junior high kids. But we were able to successfully do it where they really got the idea of the story. This young teenager trying to be very heroic, the battle of the sexes between the Greek gods and Greek goddesses, which is the crux of the story of Medusa.
Right.
That is what's going on. So we're going to come this way. So these are all made out. We carve a little bit more this way. There you go. Can you guys see the girls there?
Yeah, the 3 witches are
I love how each of these looks like they have like ancient theatrical masks on them. Like
that was the image that we were going for.
Yeah, it works really well.
So they have one eye that they share.
Yep.
They have one tooth that they share. So you have to have the empty sockets. Now, it was when we were doing the designs of this, there was a college professor that did the artistic drawings for this. and we had to shift and change because first of all, some of them were in black and white. These girls were in black and white. And I was like, what do you imagine their skin color to be? And he said, bruised, like when you get a bruise on your arm or your leg, how it turns. No, we're fine. Oh, okay. You want to do that? Yeah. So there is purples, there's magentas, there's the grays in these, and they are called the gray eyes. So I went with a very gray ragged costume on these gals. And so in order to produce a puppet like this, you have to carve the head out of a clay. An oil-based clay is what we use. And then that's about 16 hours.
Yeah.
To where you get it to where you want it. You have to carve all 3 heads during the whole process. And then you carve hands and maybe parts of an arm and then the feet. And then we're going to plaster cast that clay in 2 to 4 pieces per mold. Take the clay out, clean the mold up, dry it, and then pour ammonia and rubber into it. And we're going to come up with a material that it's called neoprene or Chicago 501. So Heidi's working her tail off here.
At what point do you bleed and spit on the puppet? When does that come in?
Throughout the process.
that we did, and the mold goes together. And so at one point, and then I pour the ammonia and rubber into here. When the ammonia and rubber is set for 3 hours or 4 hours or 9 hours, you have to babysit it. It's not something you can just go away overnight. You have to keep filling the mold because the plaster sucks the ammonia and the water to the edges. It forms a shell. After we have it thick enough, we empty the remainder out back into the container because it can be reused. Let it sit overnight. And when we pry it open in the morning, it's rubbery like a wet kitchen sponge. So it will pull out of a plaster mold, real easy if we're careful without breaking the mold or breaking the neoprene. Then we let it air dry for 24 hours and it becomes bulletproof. You can drop these gals off a 2-story building and it won't hurt them. 3 stories, we found out, yeah, they will. Because they dropped Atlas down a 3rd-story flight of stairs and cracked his head open. And I'm like, what did you do to this puppet? Oh my gosh. Well, he rolled out while we were, transporting the show up into this old high school. So we try to make puppets as durable as possible. If they're wood, we have to be very careful. If you drop a wooden puppet, an ear or a nose is going to fall off. You see ancient statues, Greek and Egyptian, and the noses are broken off or the ears are broken off. That's going to go first. But the neoprene that we use is, when I was building for Walt Disney World, I built 27 puppets that had to last 3 years on stage, 5 shows a day, 5 days a week.
Oh my gosh, what puppets did you work on?
I worked on the Hunchback of Notre Dame stage show for the MGM Park. That was the longest running Disney live show movie extravaganza ever in the history of any of the theme parks.
Whoa.
It ran 7 years to the tune of 10 million visitors saw it. The puppets had to be guaranteed for 3. They lasted 7. So I'm really thrilled. I have copies of the heads in the museum of a few of the heads, hands and some feet that we had built for Walt Disney World. So, if you're familiar with the movie, this is the guard that the horse sits on. There you go. So
there's Quasimodo's head behind you.
Quasimodo. Okay, I should go get Esmeralda.
That's amazing. There's just so much involved in these puppets. I think it's also like a important takeaway is that these are not just like dolls that are set on strings. These are elaborate.
They have
complex
to work. They have to look like the characters. The Disney characters had to be so explicit, just like the movie. But they wanted us to make them look like they're carved out of wood.
Yeah.
So it has divots on them. The clay was divoted before we made the mold. People are like, when you got it out, did you carve it?
Can we actually put this on YouTube without Disney lawyers coming in and
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I can. Oh, good.
I've already done that. Been there, done that with them. As long as I do not duplicate the patterns,
Hmm.
Disney's fine with me showcasing them, putting them on video, putting them on YouTube. So
Awesome.
yeah, and the Hanson lawyers is the same way.
This looks like wood.
No, this is mannequin rubber.
That's not it.
Nope,
What about this guy?
that's
He wanted
Copan.
to show it.
He's missing the brim of his little hat. Copan, the master of ceremonies for the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Thank you.
Yeah, so I kind of bringing this to, we're getting close to an hour here now. The sort of, I wanted to talk a little bit about why you sort of in a way needed this museum to be able to house and also like preserve this beautiful form of puppetry and these collection of puppets from your, over 4 decades of a career. And so that's why the museum has kind of come up around this desire and passion to continue to share, but also have a place for these beautiful creations and
was a
well
great-
as sacred objects.
It was a great risk and it was a great expense.
Mhm.
Not have a fun person. Like the Puppetry for Arts in Atlanta, Georgia is sponsored by Coke.
Right.
They
Mhm.
have millions of dollars. The one in Connecticut is sponsored by the University of Connecticut. The one in Santa Cruz is sponsored by the University of Santa Cruz. I have to pay the rent, the insurance, the storage, all of that on this building. So I do rely on donations, and I also rely on the sales from our gift shop. And also, when we set this building up, I had no intentions of performing here because I do shows on the road all over Portland, all over Oregon. But then people went, why don't you do it here? And I hired small organizations to do smaller shows. And then we restructured my backyard for me to do the larger ones. I still do tour out, not as much now, and I won't as much because I just lost my business partner and my lifelong partner of 45 years in November. Marty passed away of heart failure and was the rock to my fantasy world and everything. His dream was to keep this museum alive. His brother is very important to doing this with us because he owns the property that this museum in my house sits in. And so we're going to carry on.
Yeah.
Heidi, who just met in and out, who's dodging back and forth, has joined me as a full-time and is getting us on social media. She's like, we have to have an Instagram. I went, okay, fine.
As us millennials have a penchant for, this is one of the things we're good at. So
Canceling.
So the Facebook one I have been doing forever. The website used to be 500 pages, the largest puppet website in the United States. When Marty started to have amputations and surgeries, he was the webmaster. He was using programs that were so advanced. Everybody goes, I'm going to come in and help you to restore your website. They knocked out 300 pages.
Oh, yeah.
Destroyed 300 historical pages. The history of movie making with my company, working for Walt Disney World, working for Blake Edwards, working for all these people. They knocked out the international history around the world. So I finally found someone who does know how to work with it. And we're starting real simple. It is puppetmuseum.com. And you can find out more about our live shows. Wish me luck. Tomorrow night, I'm doing a one-man show, 45 years and 45 minutes.
Ooh.
And I'll be telling how I started in puppetry, what my first experiences were, my first television shows, my first movie experiences. It's a hoot. I've led a very blessed, but a very hard life.
Yes,
Working
absolutely.
everything I have people go, you're so lucky. I didn't have the vacations. I didn't have the new clothes. I didn't have the new cars. I didn't have all of the toys and the perks that people did. What I do have is an extraordinary legacy. I have 2,500 puppets from around the world.
Mhm.
And I have a career that is still going today. I will have a movie on Amazon Prime. I will have a movie on Showtime. And now one of the movies I've been in will be on Netflix.
Nice.
So
I'll make
that's-
sure to,
Congratulations. That's awesome.
that
Thank you.
is so amazing. I'll make sure to get all of this to put in the show notes for our listeners, because I'm sure folks are going to want to come see your museum, check you out on the social medias. And also just, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. One of the things, as maybe I mentioned this at the beginning of this, is like, I just really enjoy how passionate you are about this and how it is conveyed through your like meticulous and very passionate love of these puppets, and how you cherish them both in your museum and home, and the way that you convey this ancient art form in this sort of modern context that really makes it both accessible and entertaining, and it brings people into this world of the magic and science of puppetry. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Welcome. I'm very honored to be here. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about puppetry, it's creating the illusion of life from
Yes.
an object. If for one small moment we can take you away from the daily grind, we can thrill you, we can make you feel romantic, we can make you happy, we can scare you. We are doing our job. If you don't know that we're doing it, mission accomplished.
Yes.
Because we're not supposed to be seen. We're not supposed to be heard. That's the magic and the mystery of puppetry. You don't think Yoda isn't real. Baby Yoda is not CG'd. He is a puppet.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Technology does not replace us. It enhances what we do. Oh, one of the little pigs. So we're going to be teaching a workshop on how to build with paper pulp next. I'm trying to do workshops that are artistic, children and adults. And I'm trying to do all sorts of different art because I want this museum to be part of this community. We do
Yes.
outreach. I've done senior shows. I've gone out and done handicapped kids. We have them here sometimes. We want the Portland Puppet Museum to be a place that people can bring their families or their friends and experience these extraordinary works of art and feel what it's like. This Women of the Ancient World will be up until the middle of June. Then no holds barred. We have witches, unicorns, trolls, dragons, fairies, pixies. We are going to the enchanted woods of fairy tales.
Oh,
And-
wow. When is that?
That is
It'll be
happening
in June,
middle of
so you'll be
June.
here for when the exhibit is here, Enku. So we'll go and we'll make a special Science Witch podcast visit to the Puppet Museum.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited for that.
So
Yes.
you'll meet the big bad wolf. Yeah. And we have the big giant crocodile trying to eat Peter Pan and Captain Hook. And there's a witch's parking lot over the gingerbread house. They're all flying around.
I can't wait for the witch. I have to say that was definitely one of the things that I was really excited about, and I'm gonna host some events that are related to witches to come out and see and pay homage to this incredible puppet. All right, well, thank you so much, Steve, for coming on the
Yeah,
show.
thank
Thank you so
you.
much, and yeah, thank you as well for helping out with all of the technology. And Heidi, thank you so much. And yeah, I will make sure to get you about all the links so folks can see all of the various different projects and social media links to catch up with you. And of course, if you happen to be in the area of the Portland area, this is really beautiful chance to check out this museum in person. It's open from Thursday to Sundays?
Sunday from 2 to 8.
2 to 8.
Press is 906 Southeast Umatilla Street and 9th. It's in the Selwood district, and it used to be the main boulevard, but the main business district drifted away. So there's a lot of homes, but I have 17 free parking spaces.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, it is charming.
Puppeteering backgrounds. It took me over 30 years to find out that everything connected in my life goes to puppets.
Yes.
So he has been
There we go.
amazing at bringing things together and teaching me and like getting my art out of the second dimension into the world and helping with
Right.
like performance and stuff like code switching, these things I never learned in school for 20 years.
It's all tied together in the human experience, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I do have
Yeah.
one final question before we
Sure.
go.
Yeah,
Sure.
Enku.
What movie recommendations would you make to listeners or viewers who really want to see some exemplary puppetry work? What really sort of pulls at your heartstrings, as it were?
That's a great one.
Boy, if you're into contemporary humor, Team America World Police, which was done by this South Park people,
Right.
is a movie that just goes way over the top. Here's the line. Well, they jumped over it, which is a really fun one. Any of the Harry Potter films, all of that is puppetry. That is not CG. The spiders, the griffin, all of that. Lord of the Rings, the dragon in The Hobbit is real. It was 32 people working it in London.
The real
Oh,
dra-
wow.
Log was, yes. And then they enhance it with computer CG. So Neverending Story is an old favorite classic.
One of my favorites.
Uproar. Now, if you go to Germany in Bond, they have recreated him and you can fly on him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You can on him and they'll shoot videos of you flying on Falcor. So it's Lion King, of course, is a giant puppet show. So they're all Men in Black. All the aliens are puppets. Star Wars, all of the aliens are puppets. The thing when you say show me a puppet movie, if you're an adult and you want to find one that is interesting, it's called Strings.
Mm.
That one is fascinating. So it's all real fun. There, Punch and Judy was another one that they just came out with a movie recently.
Oh, cool.
Stop animation Pinocchio is breathtaking, dark, but breathtaking. Any of the Leica films are just wonderful and joyful to watch. That stop animation is puppetry as well, and it started in France in the 1800s with bugs that they were doing little individual frames, and it's a form of animating, bringing an illusion to life using your craft. That was.
Did you say with bugs?
Was with bugs?
Does that go on with
Yeah.
the photograph?
Oh, wow. Like
And
with
it's
insects.
about a beetle that falls in love with a firefly who is a nightclub singer.
Oh
And
my gosh.
he's married and she catches him. And so, yeah, it's really fun. So the art of stop animation is fairly new, considering the other ones go back 4,000 years or 2,000 years.
Right. But
The
it's still
electronic
cool.
ones are gigantic. The biggest, most impressive one that I've seen recently is in Germany in Wald, W-A-L-D, for their medieval festival. It takes 6 animating operators with the remote controls to work a 65-foot dragon that walks out of a cave, grabs a gal, goes to eat it as he's shooting up on his back feet and breathing fire.
Whoa.
It was made in the United States. It was shipped over to Germany. It is amazing. There are French companies that have 60 and 40-foot tall puppets that work with giant sky cranes. But this dragon is amazing because you just can't see how it's working.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
I do like I'm thinking also of Mardi Gras, some of the
Oh,
floats
totally.
are animatronic
yeah.
in Bacchus and such.
Yes, just amazing. And they do that also in France and in Belgium.
Yeah.
Over the top, gorgeous, animations and all that. That's all puppetry because we're
Right.
creating an illusion of life from an inanimate object.
Which is really amazing. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on the
You're welcome.
show.
So
I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing the show notes for this. I know it.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing out the magical, mystical parts because they've been used in religious ceremonies. They've been all burned after a show because they don't want the spirit to go on. They want it to remain here. They've been loved, hugged. They still capture us.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank
And they
you.
will continue to, in large part, thanks to you, Steve. So thank you again.